family. I want to welcome y'all to another episode of Friday Night Live with me, Pastor Frank. Listen, do me a favor as y'all logging in. Two things. One, as you coming in, drop a line in the chat. Let me know where you watching from. If you watching from here in Chicago, wherever you might be watching from, let me know where you watching from. What's up, Red? But then also do me a favor. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, Frank Maurice Unfiltered, go over to YouTube real quick. Frank Maurice Unfiltered. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can make sure you hit that little bell so you can get all the notifications anytime I go live, as well as anytime that I post any other videos on that particular YouTube channel. As well as, and if you're watching me on Facebook, go ahead and hit that like button, go on and hit that share button, and even tag some folks. There's some other people that need to hear what we're going to be talking about on tonight. If you saw last episode, you already know this week we're going to be talking about shifts happen. Again, that shifts happen. And this season, this whole season, y'all see behind me the Dream Unfiltered logo. That's our focus all season. We're trying to get back to a place of hope where we can all begin to live out our dreams, but this time live them unfiltered, right? As I mentioned last week, so many of us, as we grew up, we had big dreams, but somewhere along the way, life happened. And so many of us, our dreams have began to be filtered or become filtered by life. But we got to get back to that place of being able to dream big and dream unfiltered. So yeah, do me a favor. I'm excited, you all, as always. I'm always grateful. I don't know about you. Is anybody else grateful that we made it through yet another week? I know for some of us it's been a long week. I know for me it's been a really long week. We have some good days, we had some bad days, but guess what? God is still good and he's still in control. And as long as he's in control, we ain't got nothing to worry about. I ain't saying everything is gonna be easy. I ain't ever saying everything is gonna be perfect, but we ain't gotta worry because we know God is always in control. And so on tonight, as y'all heard me mention earlier, tonight we're gonna be talking about shift happens. Yeah, you heard me. Shift happens. And so y'all ready? Well, let's go. Listen, so as we get ready to jump into this topic, I think it's only fair and it's only right that we start out by defining what do I mean when I say shift happens, right? Because we know shifts do happen, pun intended. Uh, but what are shifts? And really, you all, the only way that I can really describe it would be shifts are those unexpected changes that happen in our lives all of a sudden, right? That's why it's unexpected, because we were expecting maybe one thing or anticipating one thing, but then all of a sudden something changes, something happens all of a sudden, and usually it's out of our control. As an example, here's some examples. In a work environment, it might be that maybe a coworker that you're pretty close with, all of a sudden, they just suddenly happen to quit, or they suddenly get walked out of the building, right? They get fired all of a sudden, something that you wasn't necessarily expecting, right? Y'all talk all the time. They never mentioned to you that they were looking to quit or looking to leave, but all of a sudden it happened. That's a shift, right? For some of us, it may be the sudden loss of a loved one, right? Especially if it's someone who we didn't know that they may have had any kind of ailment or sickness or disease or anything like that. But it seemed like they were doing well. They were full of life, health, strength, all of those things. But then all of a sudden they're gone just like that, right? That's suddenly, that's unexpected, right? That's a shift, right? But then guess what? There also could be a situation where it seemed like we live in our best life. I mean, we've been praying and we've been working hard, and it seems like things are starting to line up for us. And then it seems like just all of a sudden everything just falls apart. It seems like everything, like you can't win for losing. You take one step forward, you take two steps back, you take two steps forward, you get knocked back five more times, right? It seems like you can't win for losing. That would be a shift, right? And what makes it a shift is that it happens suddenly. It happens when you're not expecting it. Maybe those don't really, spark your interest or get you. How about that relationship, right? You and your boo, seem like things been going well. Y'all had little rocky patches here and there. Such is life. Y'all get to the place where you're talking about being engaged and y'all looking at rings and talking about what your future gonna be like. You're talking about marriage, but then all of a sudden, that significant one of the significant others, it don't matter if it's the man or the woman, then all of a sudden they just break up all of a sudden, and you like, well, wait a minute, where that come from? We was just planning our wedding. We were just talking about our engagement. We were just looking at rings. Now all of a sudden we broke up. You don't even know why. Those are examples. Y'all get my point. Those are examples of what shifts can be like. And again, y'all heard me mention it a few minutes ago. The thing about shifts is they are sudden. They happen all of a sudden. It's unexpected. And either way, you all, what I want us to realize is that it really don't matter who you are. At the end of the day, we all will experience shifts in life. Preachers, pastors, ministers, it don't matter who you are. Pastor, preacher, teacher, deacon, school teacher, principal, doctors, lawyers, nurses, it don't matter who it is. Shifts happen to all of us. It's a natural part of life. And here's the thing, tonight's focus, you all, is not necessarily so much about the shifts in and of themselves, but it's more so about how do we handle when those shifts happen. Because the reality is, as I stated, all of us are going to experience shifts in life. There's a quote that I've been holding on to for a long time, and I've been using this as one of my core. Every business has a business plan, and they have core principles and things of that nature. But there's another quote that I have always prided myself on trying to strive towards, right? And that particular little quote or saying is that life, hold on, let me make sure, because I'm gonna look at my notes because I want to make sure I get this right. Um, blah 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 blah. Life is not about what happens to us, but it's about how we react to what happens to us. Let me say that again. Life is not about what happens to us. Rather, life is about how we react to what happens to us. What does that mean? What that means is we don't always control what happens to us. No control. Is as much control as we all like. I mean, okay, who can be honest and say you a control freak? I know I can be. I know I ain't the only one. Y'all ain't got to talk to me in the chat, but I know you are. It's you too. Right? We always like to be in control. But the reality is we're not always in control. The only thing we can control is us. And what that quote is saying is you ain't got no control over the stuff that happens to you in life. Well, I'm going to say most of the stuff that happens to you in life. But we are responsible for how we respond. That's just the nature of what life is. What's up, Red? How we deal with adversity, yeah. But here's my point. The reason that I'm even bringing this up, because for most of us, we respond. I want to make sure when we get into what I would call high stress situations, we all respond what I would call on autopilot. What do that mean? That means you, me, whomever it is, if you are breathing, when you enter into some sort of high stress situation, you're going to respond based on what's normal and natural for you. The only caveat to that is unless you learn a healthier or better way to deal with things, you're going to simply revert to what you know best. I often tell people all the time, as much as you really want to do better, as much as you really want your kids to do better, as much as you really want those around you to really do better, and I want you to be better than me, Can I be honest? You can't teach what you don't know. I can't teach what I don't know. All of us, we can only teach someone else what we know. And so that's where the question comes. What is it that you know? Especially as it relates to dealing with those shifts, or as Ms. Red said, the adversity in life. But I'm glad you asked that question. So I hear somebody saying, so how exactly should we handle adversity? I'm taking that. I'm taking that tablet. How do we handle the adversity? Well, how do we handle the shifts that happen in our lives? Well, there's a story in the Bible. I'm gonna try not to hold us too long, but there's a story in the Bible, Nehemiah chapters 4 through 6 to be exact, where God, watch this, God inspires a guy by the name of Nehemiah to rebuild the temple, right? And what makes this story so interesting is that not only did God inspire him to rebuild the temple, but then he actually gave him all the favor that was needed to make sure he had everything he needed to be able to complete the task, right? But as you keep reading the story, what you end up finding out is, despite God inspiring him and calling him to do this particular thing, despite the fact that God then gave him favor, that means he makes sure that you had everything that you needed. Once God, here it is. When you read the story, Nehemiah has inspired by God. I mean, he got a word from God saying, go and do X, Y, and Z. And then God says, and to make sure, because this is how God works. God never tells you to do something without giving you everything you need to do that thing. And here in this particular story in Nehemiah, if you read through chapters 4 through 6, God makes sure that Nehemiah has everything he needs to make sure that he can rebuild the temple. But nevertheless, as you keep reading the story, with all the grace and favor and all, whatever spiritual thing, deep stuff you want to say, Nehemiah still faced opposition. And as you keep reading, the Bible tells us that there was a couple of guys who watched it, didn't like him, and to the point that they even became angry that he was trying to do what he was trying to do. Now, I don't know about y'all, but to me, it sounds kind of crazy. How you gonna be mad at me for doing what God inspired me to do? And watch this. And knowing that the favor of God rests on me, is almost like, man, how you gonna be mad at me? Can't you see that God's hand is all over my life? How in the world you gonna be getting in my way? How you trying to oppose what I'm trying to do when I'm simply over here managing my own business? How about you manage yours? But watch this. I can only imagine how Nehemiah felt, knowing that I was inspired and called by God to rebuild this temple. God made sure that I had everything I needed to rebuild this temple. But then out of nowhere, suddenly, there was a shift. One moment he was feeling good, right? Because he know he got the favor of God resting on him. I got the vision. I wrote it down. I made it plain. But now all of a sudden, I'm facing opposition that I wasn't expecting. And here's what ended up happening. The opposition, and they started out talking about Nehemiah and all the people that was helping him rebuild the temple. But then watch this. When that didn't work, then they started making up lies about them, right? And they started spreading lies about them. But we know that the lies was meant to really distract them. But then when the lies didn't get work, they got really angry to the point that they was in trying to kill them. Come on now. So you mean to tell me I'm minding my own business, ain't got nothing to do with you? Now all of a sudden, simply because you don't like me, now you talking about me, trying to embarrass me, trying to make me feel stupid, trying to make me look small. Then you're gonna spread lies about me, trying to turn people against me. But then when I still don't take the bait, now you're gonna try and kill me. That's an example. If that's not a shift, I don't know what that is. But here's the thing, you all. I tell this story because who would have thought that if God would inspire you to do something, if God gave you everything you needed in order to complete whatever task that he gave you, Who would have expected to suddenly face opposition? Who would all of a sudden expect to be talked about, to be lied about, to have your life threatened? But here's the truth of the matter, you all. No matter who you are, hear me clear. It doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter where you from. It don't matter what set you claim, Red. The truth of the matter is things can shift in life suddenly, whether it's for good or for bad. But when those shifts happen, especially for the bad, there's a couple of things when you read that story. There's two things I want to pull out, and then we're going to get up out of here. The first thing that Nehemiah did when the shift happened is watch this, and I want somebody to hear me. The first thing that Nehemiah did when the shift happened and he started facing opposition, notice he never stopped working. I hope somebody heard me. He never stopped working. No matter what they said, right? No matter how much they talked about him, no matter how much they tried to make him look like a goofy, he didn't stop working. Even when they started lying on him, thinking that was going to make him get scared, he never stopped working. Even to the point when they found out that they were threatening to kill him and trying to plot and scheme and do all of this stuff to kill him, he never stopped working. And the second thing that I noticed, and again, that's Nehemiah chapter 4 through chapter 6. If you want to go back and read it for yourself, I encourage you to do so. But the second thing, you all, not only did he not quit working, he then, the Bible tells us that he started praying to God and asking God, hey, God, I need you to remember these cats that's talking about me, that's trying to belittle me, that's trying to stop me from doing what you called me to do. He also started praying. And here's the thing for you all tonight. Just as Nehemiah didn't give up, but instead he kept working and prayed. As we continue on this journey to dreaming unfiltered, as we continue on this journey of dreaming bigger, right? It's time for us to dream again. But I need you to understand, as we continue through this journey, we're going to face some opposition. Some from within, some from without. What do I mean by that? Some of the opposition may come from ourselves. It may come from them thoughts that we have in our head when we all by ourselves. Because the reality is we know who we really are. And no matter what we say to other people, we know the truth about ourselves. And sometimes, many of us, if we're honest, we have talked ourselves out of doing so many things that God has caused us to do. There's some dreams that God put in your heart, but we talked ourselves out of it. We didn't need nobody else to try to discourage us. We didn't need nobody else to try to distract us. We talked ourselves out of it. So yes, some of that opposition may come from ourselves. But watch this. But that was also why Nehemiah prayed. He prayed and said, look, God, these cats keep coming at us. They keep talking about us. They keep plotting and scheming on us. I need you to remember what they did to us as I keep trying to work and stay focused. I need you to remember them. And watch this. At the end of the day, they were able to rebuild the temple. They didn't quit working. And guess what? Them haters, all they could do was keep hating. They was big mad because the temple got built. And so for us, we have to remember when shifts happen in our life, because shift will happen. Pun intended again. Shift happens. But when it happens, don't stop working. Whatever it is that God inspires you to do, whatever that dream is that God planted in your heart, don't stop working towards it. That's number one. But while you're still working, pray. There's a quote that something I posted on my YouTube channel earlier today, a short. And I know some people may not like Steve Harvey, but guess what? The truth is the truth, no matter who it comes from. And I posted it because what he was talking about was the fact that when he was younger, he mentioned that his mother told him something that stuck with him, that he carries with him even through this day. And what he said was, "My mother told me, son, when life gets rough, when life gets dark, and you can't happen to see your way through," what he said was, "My mama told me, son, don't forget to pray. When all else fails, you can go to God and pray." And guess what? Same for you, same for me. When opposition comes, when life seems dark, when you start to be a little sketchy and unsure, go and pray. God will love to hear from you. But more importantly, and let me make this clear, because a lot of times people misunderstand what prayer is. Prayer is communication with God. How many of y'all know that communication is a two-way street? And so what that means is prayer is not the time only for you to tell God your problems. Prayer also includes taking time to sit still and allow God to talk to you. Because to be honest, one of the reasons that many of us can't hear from God is because after we finish telling God what we want and what we need, rightfully so, we get up and we keep it moving, and we never take the time to hear what God might be saying to us. So yes, shifts will happen. It's a part of life. But how we handle it is the key. And unfortunately, you all, for many of us, that's one of the reasons that we end up staying stuck. Because when adversity comes, right? When distractions come, which is something we're going to talk about later, distractions. When people start lying on us, we get in our feelings because we know the truth and we want to validate and prove ourselves. No, let God do that. Let God fight them battles. Because when you read the story about Nehemiah rebuilding the wall, like I said, everything that they did was simply to try to get him to stop working on the wall. That's literally all they were trying to do, to keep him from stop working on the wall. When shifts happen in our lives, we ain't got no control over it. Pray about it, and guess what? Keep working on your wall. Well, listen, that's all I got for y'all on the night. As always, I appreciate you all for tuning in. I hope to see y'all next Friday night live as we'll be talking about dig deeper. Here's the question. Have you dug deep enough to get to the root of what may be holding you back? We just scratching the surface right now, y'all. But we're going to find out how to get to the root of what might be holding us back. I don't know how you do it. I don't know if you've done it. But we're going to talk about it next week. But before I get up out of here, I want y'all to remember, dreams plant the seeds for the future. And your future is definitely bright. I got to get up out of here. Peace and love, y'all. Peace out.